I mean, now I have myself a little space helmet, and that's kind of cool.
Ew, another scrap
Does she
busting
have
video?
any other actual ideas?
Wow, so
So
original.
boring. Oh my god, this again?
Are you done? We have projects to do.
What's her problem?
Originally for this video, I wanted to test out just cheap patterns that I found on Etsy and give you my thoughts. However, it has kind of evolved into something a little different that I'm pretty excited to share with you guys. I look like I'm telling scary stories. So much better. I think I bought 8 different sewing patterns off of Etsy, but as I was going through them, I actually kind of found a different direction for this video that I'm pretty excited to share with you guys. There are 3 patterns that I want to highlight today because they are A, cheap, B, pretty dang easy, and C, great for using up a lot of those scraps that you probably have laying around. So not only am I going to share those 3 patterns with you, I'm going to rate them on the ease of use, their value, and their scrap busteringness. But we'll get to that with each pattern. So let me show you what I want to share. All right, that might look a little less horror movie-esque. So the first pattern I want to share with you is this little frog. At the time of purchase, this was only $1.73. And this is a vintage sewing pattern that I think was meant for like a rice bag or something, because it actually says rice-filled frog. And you may be thinking, Katie, this is an outline you could find probably on just a Google search. And you're right, I probably could have, but for $1.73, I saved myself some time and got this cool little guy. So we'll just go ahead and get this cut out. I don't know if you need to watch me cut this out. Got my little froggies cut out. I'm going to sew them together, except for in the little froggy crotch right here. That's the fill point. And then I'll fill it up with rice, and that'll be it. All right, I need the big guns for these legs because poor little guy's gonna end up with stumps if I can't figure out how to turn him. Here's my little friend. Let's go fill him up with some rice. Might put some lavender in there so he doesn't smell like a frog. And then we'll sew up his little crotch and he'll be done. The hardest part has been turning his legs, and I'm sure if I used like thinner fabric, maybe something that wasn't fleece, it probably would have been a lot easier. Let's see what the finished product looks like. What is so great about this pattern is that it really takes almost no fabric. You can easily make this out of a fat quarter if you wanted to. Probably make 2 of them out of that. And it comes together in about half an hour, if not a little less. Look how cute he is. And I put a little bit of lavender in there, so he smells good too. So for ease of use, I would give this little frog guy 5 out of 5 lemon squeezies, because this is a pattern that just about anybody could do. If you're a brand new sewist, just take it slow, you'll be fine. And probably the hardest part was turning out his little legs. If I hadn't used sweatshirt fabric, it probably would have been a lot easier. For value, I give this guy 3 out of $5 bills. It was the most expensive pattern that I bought at $1.73, and he's cute, and I could probably give him away as like gifts or something, but I'm not gonna say that there's a ton of uses for this guy. I have used him as a pin cushion, and I did heat him up once I took all the pins out to use him as a heated rice bag, and that was pretty nice, but goes cold pretty fast too. Maybe not a ton of value, but he's awfully cute. And then scrap busteringness, I give this guy 5 out of 5 slidey scrap traps. The fact that it takes almost no fabric to make this guy means that it is a perfect project to get rid of some of those scraps. You could probably even quilt together a bunch of smaller scraps to make him a piecemeal frog, and I think it would turn out just fine. Next up is this cat house hidey hole thing, and I picked up the pattern for 99 cents. For those 99 cents, you get 2 different sizes. You get a large and a small cat house. It feels weird calling this a cat house, but I don't know what else to call it that sounds better. And you get instructions on how to put it together. For this cat house, I am going to use the remnants of this quilt. Unfortunately, I don't have just enough scraps to make the whole thing, so I am going to have to cut into the big scrap, but whatever. It is what it is. This pattern looks fairly simple. There is a back that you cut on the fold. There's a front that you cut on the fold, and I think this is like the cat hole. And then there's a gusset that is the top. It's the roof of it. The one thing it doesn't come with is a bottom. I did read that in the reviews that it doesn't have the bottom part of it, so we'll get to that point and see if we can put together a bottom. Also, I'm not exactly sure how it stays up. We'll figure that out too. And because I'm using a quilt, I'm not gonna cut a lining for it. I don't think in this case it necessarily needs one, but if I have to put like boning in it or something, I will figure that out as we go. Without further ado, let's go ahead and cut this out. I serged around all of my panels. The pattern calls for a lining fabric and a foam or an interfacing, and so that's kind of why I decided to use a quilt, because it kind of has all of those things together. But I recognize that it may not provide as much structural integrity as actual interfacing. Then we are going to put our gusset pieces together. We're going to sew this top part, and then we're going to sew the back panel and the front panel along here. Here is our cat house. Very easy to put together, and I was really unsure about how big it would actually be, but this looks like it could actually fit a big cat. So we'll turn it around and see if it stands up on its own. If it doesn't, what I decided to do was I gave myself a little bit of extra space in the seam allowance so that basically I could put boning in it and it'll stand up straight. And by boning, I mean, what are those things called? Zip ties. It definitely needs a floor. Like, I'm not sure why it doesn't include a floor to it. Like, this looks pretty good. I'll do the little thingies. I'll show you how I do the thingies, and then we'll see what the difference is. I did not do a great job of leaving enough seam allowance to put my really big zip ties into. So what I did instead is I put just kind of channels in there with bias tape. It has a lot of potential. I do wish it had a bottom, and I think that would also help with the, keeping it upright, but it's also not a pattern that I would have tried to do on my own. I can make myself a cool helmet. So when I talk about using patterns for many different reasons, I mean, now I have myself a little space helmet, and that's kind of cool. Now, this pattern definitely needs the most stuff to make it work. It needs interfacing, you need a lining fabric, you need an exterior fabric. The first one that I made, I actually used out of quilting scraps that I had, and then I helped give it some rigidity with zip ties. That worked too, but if you don't have long zip ties around, you're probably going to be stuck. So this is probably the most complicated of the patterns that I downloaded, but this was an immediate hit with Oscar. As soon as he came in, he found it and he loved it. For ease of use, I would give this pattern 3 out of 5 lemon squeezies. It is a little more technical. You do need a bit more stuff, but it's not horribly difficult. You just need some extra things. For the value, I definitely give it 5 out of 5 because you get those 2 sizes, and I think it has some other potential uses that I will be keeping in the back of my head for later times. Now, for scrap busteringness, I think I would give this a 2.5 out of 5 slidey scrap traps because you do need larger pieces to get this done. This is one of the gussets for the large size. I mean, it's pretty significant. And you would need this in both your exterior fabric and your lining fabric. However, if you have scraps like this, it's a great project to get rid of some of those. Also, you may need to buy additional things to give it the rigidity that it needs to not cave in on your cat. So it could potentially create even more scrap than it actually uses up. Last, but certainly not least, is one of perhaps the best patterns that I downloaded and the one that I was probably the most excited for. And that is this mittens pattern. A, I paid $1 for this. B, it is for children. There is no way that this is fitting my bear paw. And I know that some folks out there are going to roll their eyes and go, Katie, mittens are not difficult to make or pattern out. And I respond with, I know, but I'm lazy and it was $1. And this is probably the best pattern that I bought. What helped with the value with this was that I was able to put these pieces onto a copier and enlarge them by about 160%. And it gave me adult size pattern pieces. There's the difference. So now, not only can I make mittens for children, but I can also make mittens for big people. And that's pretty great. I did make the mitten. I mean, it's pretty cute. I have visions of making like dinosaur mittens. I think that would be super cute with like this thing on the back. Or sharks. Put a little shark fin on the back. I think that'd be super duper cool. I will probably work on that at some point. With my 160% copy, I made mittens of my own. And what an incredible scrap buster project. For 99 cents and a little bit of time to, enlarge the pattern at 160%, I'm now able to use up a lot of the quilt scraps that I have and fleece scraps, all of that. So I am pretty excited about this. These are not lined. I don't have them lined yet. I am kind of playing around with the elastic idea. I don't super care for this, but it certainly stays on better than this one that doesn't have anything in the wrist. But for 99 cents to be able to make mittens for the whole family and be able to use up a lot of my scraps, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I'm gonna make a bunch of mittens because this is really fun. They're super easy. It takes maybe 20 minutes to put them together. Great pattern. So as far as ease of use goes, I give this one 4 out of 5 lemon squeezies. There are some intermediate skills you may need to get the cuffs on right or go around some of the tight corners, but it's really pretty beginner friendly. As far as value goes, this one is a 5 out of 5. For $1, I got the children's pattern, and then by enlarging it, I am able to provide everyone that I know with mittens now. And for scrap busteringness, I give this one a 5 out of 5 slidey scrap traps because it really does not take a ton of fabric to make the individual pieces, and because there are smaller pattern pieces, so you got one, which is the back, but then this is your palm, these can be 2 different fabrics, and those 2 fabrics can be different from this fabric. I was able to eat up a lot of my scrap quilt fabrics and make things that were super, super useful. So let's talk about March, because believe it or not, March is right around the corner. And if you have been following along with the No Buy 25 challenge, then you know each month we get small sewing challenges to stretch our creativity and use up some of the crap that we already have in our stash. February was Try a New Pattern month, and so maybe today you happen to find a new pattern that you would like to try. And in March, we are going to go a little wild. Not a lot wild, don't get crazy. A little wild, tastefully wild, if you will. What I mean by that is we are just going to take something that we are comfortable making and we're gonna maybe blow it up a little bit or make it in a fabric that we would never make it before. So for me, I am thinking about making some crazy pants or upcycling some jeans in a way that I would never consider doing it before. Maybe I want to put a weird sleeve on something that I am comfortable making. I don't know, but here are some inspiration picks that I am thinking of. It is time for you guys to start collecting your inspiration so that come March, we can make something a little crazy. tastefully crazy. And I can't wait to see what you guys are up to. If you have tried a new pattern in February, tag me over on Instagram so that I can see what you are making, because I am also always looking for new patterns to try, and you guys provide a lot of really great inspiration over there. So I hope that you found this somewhat interesting and useful. I would like to give a special shout out to all of my makers over on Ko-fi. Thank you guys so much for all of the support. I hope that your February is going smashingly well. If you would like to become a maker, it is only $2 a month, and you support the insanity that goes on here. If you're not interested in that, nothing else changes, no big deal. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and, subscribe, because that's cool. Or don't, that's cool too. Do whatever you want, and I will see you guys next time. Okay, bye.